Welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Mentzel.
And we're back this week on a Wednesday. I won't be here. We all won't be here on a Friday. We're attending a award ceremony for the Upper Midwest Emmys. So hopefully we get an award because of that. We were nominated for this show. So hopefully we get that first place. Hopefully we take it home, baby.
Yeah, I mean, very exciting. Something that we've never been able to do here, and all have been before. So this is just something that's very exciting for all of us to get to do this weekend.
Yep. We're back. How you doing, Dash? How you doing this afternoon?
Pretty good. I mean, oh boy, the weather hasn't been treating any of us nicely. But I mean, you got a big trip coming up too next week. So I mean,
I'm over this.
Easter break's coming up soon. I mean, hopefully the weather will get warmer soon, and hopefully things will start to relax a little while.
Yep. I'll be in Mexico early next week until Easter break. So hopefully, skip all this. However, we're supposed to have a storm next week too, so glad I'm about to miss that. But it just sucks when you got to come back to that. I think that's the hard part. Not leaving it, coming back, but oh my god, it misses your trip even more.
You come back from the 80s, and all of a sudden it's like you just step into a freezer. All of a sudden, like right now we're kind of used to it, but you get out of it for a week, and then you come right back, and then it's just like why did I come back here?
Definitely. But before we get into Bison baseball, we're going to start with a little football update. NDSU football. They had their pro day this morning. Tight end Noah Gendorf, O-line Nash Jensen, fullback Hunter Lipke, O-line Cody Mock, cornerback Destin Talbert, safety Michael Tutsi, and DN Spencer Wagey, and safety Dawson Weber. All were at the pro day, so hopefully those guys did good and got some NFL looks.
Yeah, and we talked about before Cody Mock and Hunter Lipke both being pretty much shoo-ins to be in the NFL draft in the first 7 rounds. But also Nash Jensen, kind of interesting. He's got to get ready pretty quickly after this combine because he got drafted by the Pittsburgh Maulers of the USFL, so he'll be starting that in a couple of weeks.
Yep, and Cody Mock, he's been having looks since during the season as an O-line, so hopefully he did good, and he did exceptionally well at the combine too, so that was pretty nice. Michael Tutsi, he's kind of one of those underrated guys. He's a great safety, great strong safety. I think he can be a hybrid, can hit. Dawson Weber, another guy. We all know he's known for picks around here, so hopefully they did good.
Yep, Destin Talbert as well, one of the best plays that NDSU has ever seen on defense before. So hopefully he can bring that little bit of flash to his combine and maybe to the NFL.
Definitely. Moving on to Bison baseball. So this past weekend they started conference play and they played against the Omaha Mavericks and did pretty good. 3-game series. They went 2-1. What a great way to start the conference play, but also continue that momentum because we all know the past 4 series they're going downhill, man.
Well, exactly. And, we talked about that after the Houston Christian series, that they won 2 of those 3 games, but we were like, they needed that kind of momentum shift because the non-conference schedule wasn't going well. But at the same time, I also mentioned that conference is a fresh slate now. Maybe this is the time when they spark and, turn into a different team, kind of like the men's basketball team earlier this year. Yeah. And they definitely started off on a good note against Omaha on both sides.
Definitely. On Friday, they set the tone early in the series. They won 10-2. Omaha scored the first one to score in the first inning, and then the Bison stole the lead in the second inning, scoring 3 runs off 4 hits to make it 3-1, following a 2-run single from Caden Schwabe.
And after that, the game went scoreless for 5 innings until the Bison turned up the heat, scoring 6 runs on 4 hits in the 8th inning to increase their lead to 9-1. And Davis Hamilton sparked NDSU with a 2 RBI double into right field. Kyle Law followed it up with an RBI single before Will Bush and Kyle Law each scored unearned runs after a throwing error. And the Bison would go on to close out the game 10-2. And the Bison connected on 13 hits as a team with 4 different players contributing to at least 2 hits.
Yep. Hey, if the energy was infectious, seems like they can continue the rhythm, which this team's, probably one of the things that they need. They were lacking, like I said, in the past 4 series. So this game, good thing. This game was a good, test to see if they can get back in the groove.
Well, hitting was never a problem for the team in non-conference play, but the main problem for this team was pitching and defense, and they definitely turned it up in this game, only allowing 2 runs, which I think is the first time that they've done that. Before the Houston Christian series, they allowed at least 5 runs or more for like 15 straight games, so this was just good to see.
Yep, freshman Davis Hamilton led the Bison with 2 hits, 3 runs, and 3 RBIs. What a day for him.
And Jack Steele had 2 runs and 3 hits.
Then on Saturday, they had a doubleheader and they split in Game 1. The Mavericks defeated the Bison 7-6. Omaha grabbed the first lead. They got a run in the second inning and kept extending their lead over the course of the next 4 innings. They managed to go ahead 6-0 by the 6th inning.
But the Bison responded in the 6th inning, send 4 runs in on 5 hits to cut the deficit to 6-4. But unfortunately, the Mavericks were were able to place another run in the 6th inning and would hold off the Bison for the rest of the way.
Yeah, this game's tough. It's a close game. They can't get them all.
Yeah.
Like I said, they started the tournament with good energy, but this game kind of slipped away from them.
Yeah, but this is another thing that the men's team has done this year, which has been a good sign. There's a lot of games where they've fallen behind, but then they seem to just go on these runs across an inning or two, and they just get themselves right back into the game, which is always a good thing to see, that they never quit and they're always able to keep fighting.
Definitely. For them to go up 6-0 by the sixth inning, that a lot of people crash and burn because only 3 more innings left. But like you said, they came back and never gave up. Junior Jack Sal led the Bison with 3 hits, 1 run, and 2 RBIs.
Drew Sackett had 2 runs, 1 hit, and 2 RBIs.
And then in the second game, the Bison came back on top, winning 72. Crazy to Jack Style. NDSU sparked a 3-home run because of that. That fast start led to them scoring 4 runs off 6 hits, creating a 4-0 lead in the first inning. And then Omaha responded with a run in the bottom of the half.
But then the game went scoreless for 2 more innings until Peter Brookshaw used an RBI ground out to stretch the lead out to 5-1 in the 4th inning. He would also come back in the 6th and 9th inning with 2 home runs. Brookshaw paced NDSU going 3 out of 5 at the plate with 3 RBIs and 3 runs. He now has tied a career-high 8 home runs this season and has logged 3 games with multiple home runs. So just a great start of the season for him.
Right, back on top. Just continuing that momentum and gaining that energy back. Just because they split, right? Just because you get that loss, like I said, it was close, doesn't mean you can get back on top and win the series.
And it doesn't matter who it is against. When you win that first conference series of the year, especially after all the series that they lost in the non-conference play, it has to feel so good to start off on the right foot.
Yes, it did. Yesterday they played a non-conference game. They played Nebraska, suffered a tough 4-1 loss. The Bison scored first with Terrell Huggins stealing a base and then allowing Katie Schwabe to score in the first inning. And then the game went scoreless for 3 innings, and the Huskers was able to run off error in the 5th inning. And then in the 7th, the Huskers got 3 runs. So it was just tough. They just ultimately took the game at the end. Non-conference game, they've been having trouble with non-conference teams. So even though they got that, momentum going with Houston Christian and Omaha, they just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, but this was a Big 12 team as well, a non-conference team, so a harder team to beat, and they kept it close for the longest time.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were able to keep it close till almost the very end of the game is also just a very good sign. Now, the one thing that was the problem in this game was the hitting, which we hadn't seen a lot of problems with so far this season, but the pitching actually did a pretty decent job up till that 7th inning.
Yeah, going to the series, Omaha series, pitching was definitely better in this series than like I said, the past 4 ones. Cade Feeney has been playing exceptionally well, and they need people like that. And Jack Stiles and Davis Hamlin played their heart out, too. They did well in this tournament.
You also have another freshman, Kyle Law, who's also done pretty well. So, I mean, a lot of young talent coming up through. And you talked about Cade Feeney. We lost a couple of starting pitchers at the end of last season, so now guys like Feeney have to step up and help that pitching core.
And definitely did. He was named Ticket Smarter Summer League Peak Pitcher of the Week. So, hey, well-deserved. Next game, they are now 5-19 overall. On Friday, they'll face SDSU for a doubleheader. First set of games is at 12. They'll come back on Saturday and cap the series. SDSU is 5-14. Last time they faced each other was in the second round of Summer League Championship, in which NDSU defeated them 7-4. So let's see if the Bison get edged them. SDSU is coming off a losing series against Northern Colorado. The problem with this team is SDSU just gives up points. So I think NDSU can edge this team.
Well, NDSU should definitely take advantage of that. When we talked about how good their hitting is this year, and this is kind of the perfect team to go up against a team that has struggled with giving up runs. So definitely. This is just the perfect opportunity for NDSU. And meanwhile, SDSU will be kind of gunning for revenge after what happened last year. And you know these two schools, they can never give each other the edge. They have to always try to get revenge on the other if they lose.
Definitely. Moving on to softball, they had a 3-game series against Kansas, and they swept the rules in dominant fashion. I mean,
they
this
look
team
unstoppable
is on
right now.
fire, a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, they look unstoppable right now. Yeah. Throughout the entire non-conference season, you had to wonder, was it going to continue? And at least for the first series of the conference play, it definitely has continued.
Yep. On Saturday, they had a doubleheader, and they killed the rules 10-0 in 5 innings. This was a patient game. Most of the runs came later in the game. They scored 3 runs in both the 4th and 5th inning. However, the pitching was outstanding. I mean, the Rules only had 1 hit the entire game.
Yes, Paige Vargas had an amazing day pitching. You mentioned only allowing that 1 hit, and I believe now she has broken her own record for most scoreless innings pitched for the NDSU softball team.
This game just shows what this team has been doing for the whole course of the season, and they continue to do it in conference play. This team is just, well, patched together. Yeah,
and, definitely after last year, and I think this was kind of the turning point that this team was looking for after the last couple of years, which, I'm sure they would agree was, kind of a disappointing ending to both seasons. They thought they could get more, they could win this conference both years, and they unfortunately couldn't do it.
Yeah.
This year, they're trying to avenge all of that, and they're trying to get it all put together for this season.
Definitely. Senior Carly Gochias led the Bison with 3 hits, 2 runs, and 5 RBIs. Had herself a game.
Yeah, Chloe WOLDRUFF had 2 runs, 2 hits, and 2 RBIs, and then Bella Dean had 1 run, 2 hits, and 3 RBIs.
And in the second game, the Bison won 4-0. After 2 scoreless innings, the Bison scored 3 runs in the 3rd inning and 1 in the 5th. So just clear-cut game.
Yeah, and pitching was definitely important in this game, too, only getting 4 runs the entire game. Not a lot of hitting for NDSU, but Lanely Lyle pitched all 7 innings and only allowed 6 hits and 1 run the entire game. So just another great day for Bison pitching.
Yep, senior coach Carly Carchias, led the Bison with 3 hits, 2 runs, and 3 RBIs.
Emily Baringa had 1 hit and 1 run, and Skylar Padgett also had 1 hit and 1 run.
Then they came back on Sunday with another huge win, 11-1 in 5 innings. Things were slow, and then it picked up in the 4th inning. They scored 7 runs and 3 runs in the 5th. Just pure domination. This team is just, their energy and their rhythm just continues to roll over. And sometimes they will have, born innings, nothing's happening in about 3, and then it's just that one pitch or that one set play that makes them keep going.
Like you mentioned, momentum. They can definitely take, when they get a couple of good hits going, they can just keep the rhythm going, and that is something that you definitely need if you want to score runs, and they definitely got that right now.
Definitely. Freshman Bella Dean led the Bison with 1 hit, 2 runs, and 3 RBIs.
Emily Baringa had 3 hits, 2 hits, and an RBI, and then Carly Gochias had 2 hits and 2 runs.
I mean, just to get into the series, Carly Gochias had herself a series. I mean, going 8 for 11 at the plate with a pair of home runs. She had a season high of 5 RBIs in a game of the series. She just was balling out in this series.
I mean, not only, this series, this entire season, Carly has been doing a great job so far this year. You also mentioned freshmen like Bella Dean, who has been also having a great season so far, and WOLDRUFF as well. Chloe WOLDRUFF had that great game. So, I mean, a lot of, talent that, we hadn't even talked about last year because some of these girls are freshmen, and we had kind of figured, okay, we're going to get a lot of players back, but, who's going to step up? Because we have lost a couple of players like Avery Wysong, who we had on our show before, and she graduated after last year. So, but there's still just a great amount of talent that's coming up through the ranks and playing well for the softball team.
Yep. Speaking of Gochias, she didn't go unnoticed. She was named Ticket Smarter Summer League Softball Peak Performer of the Week for the 2nd straight week. So it just shows she keeps balling out. They're now 19-11 overall, doing pretty good. On Saturday, they'll travel to Macomb, Illinois, to face Western Illinois for a doubleheader, with the first game starting at 12 p.m. The Leathernecks are currently 6-19, not doing so good. Their only success came on the first tournament of their season. With the Bison having this energy, I think the Bison can edge this team. I think the Bison has every reason to wash this team this weekend.
Yeah, I think NDSU should be able to keep that momentum going. But the one thing that I want to talk about right now with the NDSU softball team, we had kind of talked about this last week with the baseball team, and that the weather is going to affect their home, home games, and that we're probably going to have to play a lot of road games this year. The softball team is supposed to, in 2 weeks or in about a week and a half's time, on April 7th, Friday, they're supposed to have a home game against South Dakota and a home series there, but now it sounds like there's going to be a massive snowstorm that's going to hit the upper Midwest around that time. So there's a good chance that we don't have that series here. It's going to be either in South Dakota or possibly somewhere else even. So, that definitely tells this girls team that they're going to have to, kind of like the men, they're going to have to play strong on the road, which is what they've been doing all year. They haven't had a single home game yet, and they're still 19-11. So they're just going to have to, kind of keep that in mind, that they're going to probably have to keep playing on the road probably until May or late April and early May.
I like to go back to the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So they've been doing good on the road. Let's keep it going until they start falling off. But like you said, the weather here, I feel like it's been getting worse each year, right? Last year, barely played home. Year before that, it just gets worse every year. First, baseball, they'll be on the road for a while, so they won't have to worry about the weather here, cancellations when they're playing home just yet, but they probably will be affected by it too. Yeah,
baseball's first home game is supposed to be April 18th against Mayville State, but even then, it's like with the girls team, it was in question that they could play that game on April 7th because they could plow the snow off that field, but now with what it sounds like possibly a foot of snow coming around that time, I don't know if that's going to happen now. And you also wonder about the men, too, because a big problem last year with the men was a lot of precipitation kept flooding the field, and the conditions were just not right. And now with all this melting snow and probably the flooding conditions that are going to result because of that, I don't really see this men's team being able to play a lot of home games either this year.
And it was one of the kind of the problems we thought were that they're losing so much? Is it because of the caliber of the teams, or because they're on the road so much? And that's gonna suck if they're gonna have to cancel home games and they're gonna need a rest. But we'll see what happens. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dive into women's golf and also some NFL updates and more. Stay tuned.
One kid, one mentor, plus one moment can unlock limitless potential. One heart-to-heart, one inside joke. 30,000 youth are waiting. Be there for one of them. It's time. Become a big today.
The NDSU bookstore has everything you need to show off your Bison pride. The bookstore can have you sporting green and gold wherever you go. It offers many different brands, sizes, styles, and selection so that you find exactly what you're looking for. Shop the NDSU bookstore and show your spirit today.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
There are so many great things to experience at NDSU. It's hard to pick one, but my favorite is
the people. They make it such a warm place. The Bison aren't just across the country, they're across the globe.
It's the perfect distance from home. The faculty are our biggest cheerleaders. Hands-on research experience. The affordable tuition.
All the opportunities to stay active on campus.
Real-world learning experiences.
once I got on campus, it felt like home.
Welcome back, and now we are going to dive into women's golf. And the women's golf team is currently in Pawleys Island, South Carolina for the Golf Week Any Given Tuesday Intercollegiate. And, you know, they're looking to improve their performance because after last week in Arizona, they finished 18th out of 20 teams, which was definitely their worst performance in a long time. So they were definitely hoping to improve on that. After the first 2 days of the tournament, they were currently sitting 6 out of 17 teams after yesterday. So a good start. Catherine Monti and Leah Scar were both tied for 32nd place with scores of 152. Elise Hoven was tied for 47th place with a score of 154. And Joe Baranchik closed out the group tied for 60th place with a score of 157. Now, meanwhile, current standings as of right now on the third day of the tournament, they are still currently tied for 6th place as a team right now. But Maddie Hicks has jumped out of nowhere on the score sheet. She is currently tied for 5th right now out of everybody at the tournament with a score of 215 overall and a score of 74 today. And Catherine Monti jumped up to tied for 24th with a score of 224 overall. So a pretty good performance considering what happened last week in Arizona. Much better this time around.
Hopefully they can bring it home.
Yep, definitely. And after today, the girls' golf team will be back in action on April 10th at the Stampede at the Creek in Omaha, Nebraska.
That's what I got to ask you, in like about 3-4 weeks, they're going to be competing in the championships. How do you think this team is going to do? Like you said, they battled back to gain some success. Like you said, they haven't done this bad, the previous tournament that bad in a very long time, which is good, Good thing they're not consecutively losing. How do you think they're going to do in about 3-4 weeks at the championship?
I mean, the Stampede of the Creek is their final regular season match before they head to that Summer League tournament. So, yeah, this is definitely going to be very interesting. The women's team has usually been very good. They've had a lot of top 5 finishes this year. They even had a first place back in the fall as well. But, yeah, that 18th place, while that hurts, at the same time, that can definitely be used as a motivator, to get a little fire going and possibly do better at the tournament. And speaking of the golf teams, the men's team as well, they have finished in the top 5 in every single tournament this season so far. They have 2 more to go. Yeah. They'll play again next Monday at the Red Hawk Invitational in Tacoma, Washington. They have 2 more regular season tournaments to go. But you talk about that men's team. Yeah. Their worst finish was the first one of the year where they finished 5th out of 13 teams at the Island Resort Intercollegiate. And, they just haven't looked back since. They just finished 2nd place over spring break at the GCU Invitationals. So they have definitely been doing very well too. So, I mean, I would definitely expect both of these teams to do very well at the Summer League tournament, possibly top 3. Hopefully, if everything goes right, they could win the tournament, and both teams could win the tournament.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Moving on to some NFL news. Things got messier with Lamar Jackson earlier this week. He tweeted out.
It seems like they definitely heard about us talking about them last week.
Yeah, definitely. He tweeted out earlier this week that he did request a trade from the Ravens on March 2nd. And then
so not like yesterday, not last week, about a month ago.
Yep. And then on March 7th, that's when they placed a franchise tag on Lamar. So, and I'm glad he tweeted this out because he's been tweeting about him, like his numbers, him getting traded, and about the fake representative on his camp, right? But now this kind of shifts, right? The conversation that now he's not in the negative light. He gave the Ravens some leeway. He told them he did not want to be there, and they franchise tagged him. And now they don't want to pay him. So now, how do you think Lamar looks in this situation now?
I mean, I don't know personally how he looks in the situation right now, but the Ravens as a team, and you asked, they don't want to pay him.
Yeah.
The thing is, I thought about this a lot after we talked about this on Friday, and one thing that kind of pops up in my head about Ravens history is kind of going back to the spring of 2013. They had just won the Super Bowl 47 with the Ray Lewis defense in his final year, but the key to that team was Joe Flacco. He had led them through the playoffs, kicking and screaming to that Super Bowl.
He had a lot of pieces too, though. Is that the Anquan Bolden, Jacoby Jones?
Yeah, they had a lot of good pieces, but Joe Flacco had an amazing season that year, and he definitely was a good reason why they won that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the Ravens, after that season had ended, had given a multi-year extension. They gave him a lot of money. At the time, it was the highest paid player in NFL history. And the thing is, after that year, the Ravens and Joe Flacco dropped off tremendously. Yeah. Joe Flacco was never the same quarterback. It just never worked out. And part of me kind of thinks that the Ravens are a little worried that could happen again. If they give Lamar Jackson the largest contract ever, and he's just not the same guy again, they're worried that they're going to repeat history with what happened with Joe Flacco. So I can see why they're a little cautious about it.
Well, if they don't pay him, it's going to create bad blood because now he doesn't want to be there at all. And then since he's tweeted that, he requested it March 2nd. Obviously, there was back and forth, and it didn't come to a resolution. Yeah. But now he doesn't want to be there at all.
Well, yeah, I think at this point it's pretty much over for that.
It definitely is. So, and the significant part of that is that Harbaugh had a meeting with the reporters that day, the morning that Lamar Jackson tweeted that. So now he has to answer to that right on the spot. But how do you feel? How do you feel that makes Lamar Jackson look? Because he's been taking some pretty big hits with the reporters. He's been dealing with media problems, and now he tweets, to try to, just get off my back. Like, this is what I've been dealing with, and now, how do you think that makes him look?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that they're always going to go after him for is representing himself. Now, granted, the thing is, though, there is a player on the Ravens team, Roquan Smith, who represented himself, too, before he got traded over to Baltimore.
A lot of people have.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not like he's the only one who's ever done this. The thing is with Lamar, I think, personally, he just needs to lower his ceiling for his asking price just a little bit. I'm not saying exponentially.
A little bit.
So there's things that he was asking for $250 million guaranteed.
$230
$230 was the Deshaun contract. Personally, I think he should drop it down to maybe 220 or 210.
I can deal with that.
And he doesn't. I'm not saying he has to drop it exponentially. Just drop it a little bit because I'm sure there's some teams that would be willing to pay him around that much. Just maybe not. The 250 because there is a limit to how much teams can pay for him. So I mean, if he drops his asking price just a little bit, I feel like he'll be okay, and some teams should definitely want him.
Yeah, I mean the question is, will teams conform to his asking, his contract stipulations, and also are they willing to give up the 2 draft picks in that? So that's a tough thing.
Other things that teams are looking at, too, and one knock that he has kind of had on his whole career is that while he does have a good regular season record, and, I believe you had that, or
45-16 is regular. I was going to say that. It's either, let me get into this real quick. Okay. Do you want to win or not, right? This is a quarterback that's he's just sitting there. It's like, this is a top 5 quarterback sitting there. It makes no sense. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like you're in a video game. The promise is right there. Like, I'm just going to stay here, let the dragon come get me, and I lose. It makes no sense. He's right there waiting for you. But it makes no sense. If we go into regular season and then they talk about postseason, one postseason win, okay, cool.
Yep.
However, there's a lot of quarterbacks that don't win postseason. So
Yes.
I don't think that's a strong enough argument, especially when he's a top 5 quarterback. But get into your spill.
Yes, and that's kind of where I was going to go with it. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, very good regular season record. If you're going to get Lamar Jackson, you are going to be a playoff contender. There's no doubt about that. Now, meanwhile, though, yes, the playoff games that he's performed in, it just hasn't shown yet, and that might be the one thing that teams might want to hesitate on. And well, the thing is, the one playoff game that he won, it was back in 2020 against Tennessee in the wild card game, in which, yes, he had one of his better performances, which he had, I think it was a 58-yard rushing touchdown in that game. So he definitely showed his explosive abilities. But then meanwhile, you talk about some of the losses that he had. 2019 against Tennessee, that one was, the whole team didn't show up for that one. So it wasn't just him. But then you go to 2020 against the Bills in the divisional round, where he had that back-breaking pick six when they were only down 10-3 in that game. And then meanwhile, last year he wasn't there, and it hampered them. Yeah. Now, granted, if he was there, maybe they would have won that game, and they probably would have, to be honest. But
probably would have.
At the same time, it's just teams are going to be a little worried about that. They want to see the results. But I'm not saying that's going to deter everybody away. That's just something that's going to make teams a little bit hesitant about
I don't know. I feel like that can be debunked because Deshaun Watson, there's plenty of games that he did not play, and they still gave him that, and he was in trouble. So that kind of deteriorates that whole argument.
Yes, and I can deteriorate my own argument here with another example. Here is Matt Stafford. He never had a single playoff win before he left Detroit, and he went to the Rams first year, took them all the way to the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that's one thing that teams are going to be a little bit worried about, and they're always going to be cautious about. If they don't see that playoff success, that's going to make them a little bit hesitant.
Yeah, what I find funny, Robert Kraft on the Patriots, so Meek Mill texted him, rapper Meek Mill texted him, said Lamar Jackson wants to be a Patriot. I just find that funny. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with Lamar, man. They franchise tag him. As far as teams, they're just staying away from him, it seems like, at this point. And I just feel like this team, we were talking about him going to sit out. I would want him to sit out. You think he's going to sit out? I don't know. It's up in the air.
But like I said, I think if he just takes down that price a little bit, just by, a couple, 30, 40 million, I think there is no doubt that a team will take him.
But why? Okay, you take out what? Okay, if he goes to 220, right? His asking, you said 250, one was 230. He takes down 20 million down. Do you think teams are still going to go after him? No, I think they're still going to stay away from him just to, like I said, I think it's blackmail. I don't think it has anything to do with his injury prone, his injuries, or his asking price. I think it's just, when you're going against a system, something has to happen for a player to get humbled in their mind, right? So you truly think if he brings it down to 210, 220, teams are going to start coming after him?
I think there are a few teams that are still looking for quarterbacks. One team that I think
there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks.
Yes, absolutely. And one team that comes to mind right now for me is the Indianapolis Colts. They just lost Matt Ryan.
Oh my God.
Now, granted, they might be drafting a quarterback this year, but if they don't get a quarterback in the draft, I know Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, he'll definitely shell out his pockets for a good player.
There's a lot of teams. Houston. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks.
I think Houston will probably go for either Bryce Young or Stroud.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But
that's another thing that's the problem with Lamar. If this was this time last year, I don't feel like he would have had a problem to worry about the draft. But this year, the draft is so quarterback heavy that eliminates a lot of the teams that could be looking for him.
Definitely. I don't know. What do you think will happen with Lamar? You think he's going to just end up sitting out, or what do you think is going to happen, Dash?
I think he'll find a team.
Think so?
Somebody's going to be wanting to look for something like this. The only quarterback ever in history who kind of even compares to what he can do as a quarterback is Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And, Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson are some of the greatest regular season quarterbacks, some of the most electrifying players that you will ever see on the field. So there is no doubt in my mind that somebody's going to want that. That just doesn't grow on trees. That doesn't come overnight. You need, somebody wants that. There's no doubt about it.
It's got to happen. You can easily say it. Someone's got to
I'm sure some teams are just going to wait him out right now to see if he's going to either ask for that lowering price to go down or something, I'm sure by the time fall comes around, he's going to be on the team. It just might take a little bit. Maybe after the draft when teams assess who they got, certain teams have quarterbacks in the draft, and maybe there's some that don't. Who, the teams that didn't get a quarterback in the draft, maybe they'll say, "Hey, come on over, Lamar."
Before we get out of here, because I'm going to get some time. Before we get out of here, I want to do the talk about Trey Lance, former NDSU quarterback, him versus Brock Purdy, right? They're both injured right now. Brock Purdy did exceptionally well when he got in after Garoppolo went down. How do you think do you think Trey Lance is going to be able to get his spot back, bearing what Brock Purdy did during that season? 2 playoff wins. How do you think that's going to go?
The thing I think that helps Trey Lance right now is the fact that he is further along in his injury recovery, whereas Brock Purdy's still got a few months to go with his elbow injury, which he just had surgery on that. So, I think Trey Lance is a little ahead of Brock Purdy on that. And it's not saying for certain whether Brock Purdy's even going to be ready by training camp. So that could definitely help Trey Lance out. But personally, you know, if I'm the 49ers, you invested so much in the Trey Lance. You traded up to get him with the 3rd overall pick. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy was, you know, the Mr. Irrelevant. But at the same time, you have to look at that San Francisco offense last year, and there's a lot of quarterbacks that I think that could really help that offense. So nothing against Brock Purdy, but I think if you bring Trey Lance in with that mobility factor that we know that Trey has, I think that offense can be even better.
Yep, see what happens. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Dash Mentzel.
And we'll catch you next week, maybe not next week. If not
in
next
2
week,
weeks,
then next year in 2 weeks. Have a great day.